Welcome to Politics Unusual. I'm Morgan McKay. This week, we're interviewing City Comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander as part of our candidate series where we dive deeper into some of the policy ideas being pitched by candidates running in the primary. Next, we're interviewing City Councilwoman Susan Zhuang on her efforts to increase voter registration during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And then we're also taking a look at the latest poll in the New Jersey's governor's race. But first, a new mayor's poll has former Governor Andrew Cuomo with a hefty lead in the mayoral race. In the first round of ranked choice voting, the poll found Cuomo received 44% support. State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani received 22% support. And City Council Speaker Adrian Adams came in third with 11% support. But there is still a chunk of undecided voters in this race. And so joining us now is City Comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Morgan.
So what are your thoughts on this latest poll? Are you discouraged? You were still within that margin of error for third place. What are your thoughts?
And as the graphic you just put up showed, a strong third in ranked choice. Look, voters are just starting to clue in. At this point, 4 years ago, Catherine Garcia, I think, was at 4% in the polls, and she only lost Eric Adams by 7,000 votes. And boy, I wish she had won, because we wouldn't have all this corruption. We'd have somebody standing up to Trump and make a New York City government run better. So I'm out there talking to voters every day. We've got 5 weeks plus. I believe voters want to turn the page on corruption, have somebody that'll stand up to Trump, but also mostly deliver good government that actually works for New Yorkers, and that's what I can do.
So tell New Yorkers and our viewers a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
So I'm the New York City Comptroller. I know how to make this city run better, and that's what I'm going to do, and focus on the big problems of safety and affordability. I've got a plan to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. We don't have to be a city where a couple thousand mentally ill people sleep on subway platforms and sidewalks and the stoops of our building. And I've spent my whole career on housing. I've built and preserved tens of thousands of units. I've got a plan for 500,000 new homes so we can make the city safer, more affordable, improve quality of life, get rid of the corruption of the Adams administration, not bring in new corruption from Andrew Cuomo, and just make city government deliver for New Yorkers.
Now, you have a whole list of priorities on your website. We picked just a couple of them that are some of your top priorities. So
Great.
Starting first with street homelessness. Now, this street homelessness right now has the highest level in nearly 2 decades. You put out a 75-page plan. Break it down for us.
Yeah. So, we're talking about around 2,000 people who are seriously mentally ill and sleeping on the street. We don't have to have it be that way. With a real continuum of care. Look, when people need to be taken to the hospital, I got a plan to do that. Mental health courts are a strong option. But at its core, if you want to get people off the street, they have to be in housing and services. Otherwise, even if they come out of the hospital or come out of jail, they'll be right back where they were. So there's a plan called Housing First that takes people right from the street into a supportive housing unit with services. It's been proven to work in Houston, Denver, Salt Lake City 70 to 90% of the time. I'm going to make it work here.
And your plan, you're saying, will cost $100 million in the first year and then $30 million in the following years. And you recently came out with a report showing how successful these supportive housing units are. A lot of the people that go in stay in these apartments. And these apartments have wraparound services. But they also don't require people living there to have a job or be sober. And opponents of these supportive housing units say that, it doesn't really provide people incentives to move on from these apartments. So I know the homelessness issue is not just a one-person issue, but do you think that these supportive housing units, are they the future of our solution to homelessness?
They
and
are.
Is this going to be a permanent cost?
Well, first, if they're not in housing, then they're on the street. That's the only other choice. So you could have people go into hospital for a few days or a week or two, then they're going to come out. And the question is, do you want them back on the street or subway where they'll get worse and sometimes be a danger to themselves and others, or do you want them in housing and services? To me, it's a pretty simple choice. And those organizations are working with people to get jobs, to help people get stable and move forward, and an enormous number of them do. But even those of them that don't, there's great day treatment programs. I was just at Fountain House, an amazing clubhouse model that's got people writing, making the food, doing the gardening, taking care of the buildings, helping people be productive and successful. This is the model.
So you also, when it comes to public safety, you also say you're going to keep Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch on, and you also say you want to address the staffing crisis at the NYPD. How would you do this?
So I want to expand the NYPD cadet program. This is a great program that pays for college tuition for young people, but right now you've got to already have 45 college credits. I want to start that for New Yorkers right out of high school. So you graduate high school, you could become an NYPD cadet, start working right away to keep our neighborhood safe while we are paying for your CUNY tuition. When you get to your associate's degree, then you can take the NYPD exam and join the force. We can recruit and retain and support officers.
Now, in 2020, you did back the defund the police movement and push for a $1 billion cut to the NYPD budget. And you pointed out in past interviews that, years ago you did vote for a budget that included more officers. And then in 2020, you were just responding to the times. But how do you assure cops that they can trust you if they do enter the workforce?
Look, I've been working with police officers on their pension funds. That's what the comptroller does. And I have to say, we solve problems with them around long COVID, around officers and their family members when officers were killed in the line of duty. So cops know I've got their backs. Look, I've been real clear. I think progressives were slow to respond to the rise of disorder and crime during the pandemic, and we're paying the social and political costs. What all New Yorkers want is accountability and safety. And they want accountability when people commit crimes. They also want accountability if officers use excessive force. And they want accountability from the mayor to actually deliver. So that's the model I'm going to have. Straight talk, respond to the moment, safer city, fairer city.
Now, you are also one of the highest-ranking Jewish elected officials in New York City government, and one of your big platforms is anti-Semitism. So we're actually going to play a clip here that you posted, and we're going to talk about it in a minute.
It's rising, and we must fight it. But we must not fall for cynical approaches from opportunistic politicians, in some cases, politicians who aren't even Jewish, trying to demonize leaders who are.
So help break that down, exactly who you were talking about and what your platform would address.
Yeah, so that's me at the West Side Institutional Synagogue. I am a proud Jewish New Yorker. I'm the highest ranking Jewish elected official in city government. And I love what this city has been for Jews. Andrew Cuomo went into that synagogue and tried to weaponize anti-Semitism. Just like Donald Trump called Chuck Schumer not Jewish anymore, Andrew Cuomo's tried to weaponize anti-Semitism and even attack me in a way that I just find enraging and preposterous. So I have the most comprehensive plan in the race of any candidate to combat hate crimes, including anti-Semitism, which is on the rise, get at it online with the Citizens Crime Commission, strengthen the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force, and get more education, anti-hate education in our schools for our young people. I've got a great program to do it so we can defeat hate and anti-Semitism both in the short term and in the long run.
Now, when it comes to affordability, you say you would declare a state of emergency over the city's housing crisis, and then you're also proposing to pave over 4 of the city's 12 golf courses to build more housing. That's a unique idea. What kind of brought that on?
And let's make clear, it's not just pave over. We have 12, the city's got 12 golf courses. I was surprised to learn there's 12, 2,500 acres. 8 will still be plenty for lots of tee times for golfers, but you could build 4 great new neighborhoods with beautiful open space and parks that more people are using than are getting on those courses right now, schools, libraries, and 50,000 affordable homes for New Yorkers to own or rent. A big reason housing's so expensive is land costs, but here the city owns the land, so we can actually make housing that's affordable for working class, low income, and middle class families, like the Mitchell Lama of old, Penn South, Co-op City, great new neighborhoods, and genuinely affordable homes.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Comptroller. Any last words you would like to tell to voters?
I mean, for people who are looking for someone who's honest and effective and who will just make city government run better and stand up to Donald Trump, check out my Corruption Crusher ad where I crush a Tesla. I will fight for you, clean up city government, and deliver for all New Yorkers.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to be joined by City Council member Susan Zhuang. We will discuss a range of issues that impact New York, specifically when it comes to the Asian American community and why she's working to turn out the vote. Welcome back. Over the last decade, Asian Americans have been the fastest growing voting bloc in New York City, according to a report by the Asian American Federation. Over 27% of eligible Asian voters cast their ballots in the last mayoral primary, but some say there are still several barriers that should be addressed to help increase that turnout. Joining us now is City Councilwoman Susan Zhuang, who I'll add is up for re-election in the general election in November and will be facing off against independent candidate Jerry Chan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Megan, to invite me here.
Of course. And so tell me a little bit about this effort that you're doing right now to increase this voter turnout.
So my district is the first Chinese American district in Brooklyn, and I'm the first Chinese American city council from Brooklyn. It's very historical. But before I get in office, for my district, we have a largest Asian American representation there, but in the government, I did not see a lot of Asian American representation. People living in my area, they feel like there's no representation in government in different level, not enough. And also, they don't have the people live the experience they had. I came here when I was 20 years old. Did not speak English. I learned English, tried to do everything myself. And also, I always engage with the community. I know their value, I know their language, I know their platform, how to communicate with them. So I engage everyone in my district, my area, to mobilize them, talk to them why it's important to vote, and then bring them to the poll to vote also.
So what are you doing, and how has it been? Have you been knocking on doors? How has this outreach been?
We need to talk the issues they care about. For my area, last year, the biggest issue is homeless shelter. We need to engage people and listen to their voice. A lot of time, the Asian American community feels like we don't get the fair funding, we don't get seats on the table, the government doesn't listen to us, we are disappointed. That's the issue people always talk about, and we want the safe streets as the other community, we want quality education for our kids, and also we want more resources for our community. Very often get ignored.
Yes, and that was something else that came out of this report, but from the Asian American Federation. Now, shifting slightly and speaking of homeless shelters, you were arrested for biting a police officer during a homeless shelter protest last year. The charges were dropped after you completed a restorative justice program, but the cop you bit is reportedly now suing you for civil damages. How has that been?
If I can leave that day back, that thing should not happen. And it's not it should happen to me, and it should not happen to all Asian American community. It's tragic for me, myself, and also for the community. The issue there is not about Susan, it's about the community. We need to have the government to listen to us, have the people come to the community, know the culture, know the language, communicate with us. That which is lacking in current government. So we need someone really care about our community and speak for us, and they in our community they know Susan fight for them, but we need more people to listen to us.
So speaking of the homeless shelter, former Governor Andrew Cuomo and mayoral candidate, you've backed him now, and he reportedly is saying that they're not going to be building that homeless shelter on 86th Street and 25th Avenue in Bensonhurst. Did he promise you that in order to get you to endorse him? What was that conversation like?
So the homeless shelter is one of the issues in Asian American community. I endorse him because the track record he had with the Asian community here in our community here. He has been the fighter for our community for a long time. He actually helped us to make Lunar New Year school holiday. A lot of people probably doesn't know. That valued our value to our contribution to our New York State, New York City, and also he helped us to keep the SHAT, specialized high school, and he also very often he actually the person really care about public safety. When he is a governor, many times he brought troopers to New York City to help some emergency cases. And he actually also, he came to our community, apologized to us. That is rare to see a politician take the responsibility. During COVID time, Asian community has been hit hard because of Asian hate. That's really personal to myself and to our community. So I endorse him based on the track record and also based on what's the best, who is the best for our community.
Well, thank you so much for being here, City Councilwoman. I'll definitely have you back on as we look at your race as the months continue. Thank you for breaking down this important topic. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're taking a look at the race for the governor of New Jersey. The candidates that are taking the lead according to the latest polls next. We are less than a month away from the New Jersey primary election for governor, and a new Emerson College poll found that Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill is leading in the Democratic primary race, and Jack Ciattarelli is leading in the Republican primary race. But the poll shows there are still a lot of undecided voters. The poll was conducted this week from May 11th through the 13th. Sherrill has a hefty lead right now with 28% support. Mayor Stephen Fulop, Mayor Ross Baraka, and Congressman Josh Gottheimer are all tied for 11% support, but there are still 24% of Democratic voters who are undecided. On the Republican side, Jack Ciattarelli has a wide lead with 44% of voter support in this poll. Bill Spadea comes in second with 18%, and John Bramnick comes in with 8% support. 23% of Republican voters, though, are still undecided. When it comes to voter priorities, the poll found that the economy remains the #1 issue. However, 44% of voters say they support the recent arrest of Newark Mayor Ross Baraka for allegedly trespassing at an immigration detention facility in Newark, while 38% say they oppose the arrest. Baraka insists he was not resisting arrest nor trespassing. Here's what he had to say after leaving court.
No matter what they say, I wasn't down there protesting. But guess what? People who were down there protesting have a right to do that. They have a right to do it, and I have a right to talk to them. And I have the right to be in alliance with them. And I have the right to protect them. I have a right to speak on their behalf.
The New Jersey primary is June 10th. We're entering the last month of the New York State legislative session, and there is a bill that has been stalled for years that is now seeing some movement, the Medical Aid in Dying Act. The bill would allow a terminally ill person deemed mentally competent and given 6 months or less to live the option to choose physician-assisted suicide. It's remained a controversial topic for years, but just a few weeks ago, the state assembly passed a bill, and now the state Senate is debating it. We asked New Yorkers what they thought of the Medical Aid in Dying Act.
It's complicated. I understand why they would want to do it, and I could see myself wanting to do it, but I think if it's one of your loved ones, you might not want that to happen.
At the end of your life when you're suffering, and there's no hope, it's time to go.
And we'll continue to check in with people across our area and get their thoughts on political topics that are impacting their communities. Next up, we're going to test your knowledge of the tri-state region, so stay with us. It's time for our political flashback, and this week we're not looking too far in the past for this one. On May 14th, 1998, New Yorkers gathered in Times Square to watch the Seinfeld series finale, which aired on the jumbo screen. The show is considered to be one of the most iconic sitcoms of all time, and the finale was watched by 76 million people on television. Finally, tonight, we're sticking with our Times Square theme as we turn to our trivia test. Last week, we asked you, what was the original name of Times Square? We even gave you a hint that it's not the crossroads of the world. The answer, Longacre Square. It was originally named after London's Carriage District and served as the early site for William Vanderbilt's American Horse Exchange, but was renamed Times Square in 1904 after the New York Times decided to move its headquarters to that location. Now to this week's question. What New York City street was nicknamed the Great White Way due to its bright electric lights and billboards? Now, don't Google the answer, but if you know it or want to take a shot at it, go ahead and scan the code on your screen. That's going to take you to our website, fox5ny.com, where you can type in your answer, then check back here to see if you're right. That does it for this episode of Politics Unusual. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Morgan McKay. We look forward to having you back here next week.